Mercury reaches 430 degrees Celsius on one side and drops to minus 180 degrees Celsius on the other. And that's not even the most hostile planet on this list. What if I told you the place most likely to kill you instantly isn't the one closest to the sun, and it's not the one farthest away either? Today we're running the numbers on every single planet, and the results will completely rewrite which worlds you thought were dangerous, and which ones are quietly, almost politely, lethal. Let's start close to the sun, because Mercury sounds like it should be the hottest planet, and here's the thing, it's not. It's actually the second hottest, which already tells you Mercury is full of surprises, and not the fun kind. If you landed on Mercury during the day, you'd have maybe 2 seconds. Maybe. The surface temperature hits around 430 degrees Celsius. That's hot enough to melt lead. Your skin wouldn't burn so much as cease to exist in any recognizable form. But here's the wild part. Land on the night side, and it's negative 180 degrees on the same planet. Mercury doesn't have an atmosphere thick enough to hold heat, so the temperature just swings violently between extremes, like a planet with absolutely no emotional regulation. You would not survive Mercury, not even for long enough to regret it. Venus is the one that actually scares me most, and I think it should scare you too. Venus looks beautiful from space, bright, soft, almost inviting. Ancient astronomers called it the morning star. People wrote poems about it, and underneath all that romantic cloud cover is basically hell, literally. Scientists have nicknamed regions of Venus after goddesses, and one region is genuinely called Guinevere Planitia, which sounds lovely until you remember the surface is 465 degrees Celsius all the time. Day-night doesn't matter, because the atmosphere is so thick with carbon dioxide that heat just gets trapped forever. It's the most extreme greenhouse effect in the solar system, and the pressure, the atmospheric pressure on Venus, is 90 times that of Earth's. That means standing on Venus would feel like standing 900 meters underwater. Your body would be crushed before the heat even got to you. The Soviet Venera probes, these were tough, well-engineered machines. They lasted maybe an hour on the surface before being destroyed. An hour. You, seconds, maybe less. Okay. Mars is the first one that makes you go, maybe, and that maybe is honestly kind of heartbreaking. Mars is cold, like minus 60 Celsius on average, and the atmosphere is 95% carbon dioxide, so you can't breathe. The air pressure is less than 1% of Earth's, which means without a suit, your blood would start to boil. Not metaphorically. Actually boil because of the pressure difference. But here's the thing, if you somehow had a pressurized suit with oxygen, you could survive on Mars longer than any other planet we've talked about. Hours, maybe days if you had supplies, and it would look, in this hauntingly beautiful way, kind of like a desert in the American Southwest. Reddish rocks, wide open skies, this eerie silence. Mars feels close, closer than it should, and that closeness makes the hostility feel more personal somehow. Jupiter doesn't have a surface. That's the first thing to understand. You wouldn't land on Jupiter, you'd fall into it. The planet is essentially an enormous ball of hydrogen and helium gas, and as you descended, the pressure would build and build until you were compressed into nothing. You'd last maybe a few seconds in the upper atmosphere before radiation, wind speeds over 600 kilometers per hour, and crushing pressure ended things. There's something philosophically unsettling about a planet you can't even stand on. No surface, no ground beneath your feet. Just an endless fall into something that keeps getting denser and more violent. Jupiter is less a place and more a reminder that not everything in the universe cares about having a floor. Saturn. Similar story to Jupiter, honestly. Gas giant, no surface, beautiful rings that you'd never get to appreciate up close because you'd be dead long before you could admire them. What's worth mentioning about Saturn is the wind speeds in its upper atmosphere, over 1,800 kilometers per hour. For context, the strongest hurricane ever recorded on Earth hit about 340 kilometers per hour. Saturn's storms make our worst storms look like a light breeze on a Tuesday afternoon. Survival time? Seconds maybe, before the winds tear you apart. Uranus is cold in a way that feels almost abstract, negative 224 degrees Celsius at its cloud tops. That's the coldest recorded temperature of any planet in the solar system. Colder than Neptune, which is much further from the sun. Scientists think it's because of something that happened billions of years ago. Maybe a massive collision knocked Uranus sideways and disrupted its internal heat, a wound it's carried ever since. There's something oddly melancholy about that. And like the other gas giants, you'd have no surface to land on. You'd fall into a crushing, freezing, toxic atmosphere, and that would be it. Neptune is the furthest, the darkest, the one that feels most like the edge of something. It has the fastest winds in the solar system, up to 2,100 kilometers per hour. And its storms are so large they've been given names, which feels both scientific and deeply human at the same time. We name things we're afraid of. You'd survive less than a second on Neptune. Probably far less. The cold, the pressure, the wind, you wouldn't even have time to register what was happening. Pluto. Dwarf planet, technically, I know. But it deserves to be here because we grew up with it, and honestly, pulling it from the list would feel wrong. Pluto is minus 230 degrees Celsius. It has a thin nitrogen atmosphere that doesn't do much for you. No oxygen, no pressure. The sun, from Pluto's surface, looks like a very bright star. Just a dot. Cold and distant. If you stood on Pluto, you'd see a dim, reddish, frozen landscape. And above you, this tiny, brilliant pinprick of light that used to warm you. That used to be everything. That image stays with me. Earth. And then there's this one. This ridiculous, lucky blue and green marble that somehow has the right temperature, the right pressure, the right mix of gases, the right distance from a star that isn't too hot or too cold. A planet that grew liquid water and kept it. That developed an atmosphere that filters radiation but lets in light. That, against odds that genuinely defy comprehension, became a place where something like you could exist. You'd survive on Earth for decades. You do survive on Earth, every single day. And somehow we forget that. We get used to breathing. We take the ground beneath our feet for granted. We forget that every other world we know of would kill us instantly, some in seconds, some in less. And this one, just this one, lets us stay. I don't know if that makes the universe feel more terrifying or more beautiful. Maybe both. Maybe that's the whole point. Subscribe to the channel. Every week, we publish fascinating videos about everything imaginable.